Hey everybody, Z Garcia here, and today I'm going to be doing a fun little video in which I rank all of the characters of Marvel Dice Throne. There are 8 characters in all. Let's see who we've got here. Doctor Strange, Miles Morales Spider-Man, we've got Loki, we've got Captain Marvel, Thor, Black Widow, Scarlet Witch over here, and Black Panther. So those 8, I'm going to be ranking them. The way I'm ranking them is simply based on how much fun I have playing them. This is not by any means power ranking, which ones I think are stronger versus weaker. I'm also not ranking them on difficulty of play. That information is actually already included in the game, where you can select how much, how much sort of crunchiness or difficulty you are happy dealing with. So again, that's available for you. I'm simply doing a completely subjective listing here of the fun I have playing these characters. And to be fair, I really do enjoy them all. But I'm going to start from my least favorite. I'm going to make it over to the one I enjoy the most, the one I think is the cleverest, the most enjoyable, just the absolute most fun I'm having when I'm playing Marvel Dice Throne. So let's go ahead and jump right into it with number 8. Number 8 for me is Captain Marvel. This is my least favorite one. She's got some interesting stuff. She does extra damage with her Cosmic Ray ability, which is a random die roll of additional damage. She's got a lot of ping damage that she does with the Cosmic Flare. So a lot of little hits, which, by the way, really doesn't work well against Black Panther, especially Black Panther. You ping them for one hit and their suit, Black Panther's suit sort of gets beefier and beefier, which is funny because Captain Marvel here and Black Panther are the two that come together. When you buy this game at, post Kickstarter, you can get a set with Captain Marvel and Black Panther, a 2-pack. Her Cosmic Flare ability, which she hits for 1, it really helps out Black Panther. So anyway, but yeah, basically my main takeaway here with her is that she's just kind of a little boring. She's very straightforward. She is one of the most straightforward characters. And in fact, over here on the side that displays complexity, she's a 2. Very simple character. And definitely a good one to begin playing with. If you haven't played the game at all, you want to just jump in and try it out, see what it's all about. This is a good character, Captain Marvel. It's just her abilities are all about brute strength and hitting the other player, and there's nothing twisty. There's nothing flashy or fun about her. Straightforward, like I said, a little flat. So, my least favorite, Captain Marvel. A little more fun than Captain Marvel for me is Thor here, who in some ways is fairly similar with a little more pizzazz to the way he plays. He's also going to be doing a lot of ping damage, a little, kind of one-offs is the idea. So he'll be doing that with the hammer, and that's kind of a little bit of the pizzazz. He throws Mjolnir. He is going to, if he has it, you can give it to another player, give him a little undefendable hit, or you can retrieve it back from them, and then you get some of this electrokinesis there. And so you can continue doing this. It does cost you card discards to do that, so you can't really go too crazy with it. Thankfully, he has then the ability that lets him draw cards. So he's got a little card draw manipulation, and then again, throwing the hammer, retrieving the hammer, throwing it again, retrieving it. That is pretty neat and can be fun. But that's about the one gimmick he's got. So he's a bit of a one-trick pony, maybe. I think that's part of what I find a bit flat about him. He's got the one thing he does, and that's pretty much what you're doing, tossing the hammer and pulling it back to you. The drawing cards is great, but then the other fun ability costs you cards. So it ends up being a little bit of a wash if you really engage in both. That pulls him down a little bit. I wish that maybe tossing the hammer wasn't the card discard. You have to give up something fun to do something else fun, and I don't necessarily love that. But again, he's good, just not as good as the following 6 for me. So at number 7, Thor. Next up, we've got what I consider to be the most defensive character of the lineup here, Miles Morales Spider-Man, who has 2 counter abilities or defensive abilities, and has the ability to turn attacks against him that were undefendable defendable. Has the ability to turn attacks from him undefendable, and again has just ways to make himself invisible, to change things around so that when you think you're going to hit, you won't, or he'll hit you back, or when you think you're going to block, you won't. That's the main thing he's doing there. He also has one really cool ability where he gets to attack twice in a row, which again is pretty neat, but he's all about that manipulation of combat, not the values of the dice necessarily, just the type of combat, defendable, undefendable, defensive, he's got all of that. One thing that holds him back for me a little bit is that his stack limit for all of his abilities is 1, so he can only ever have one of that symbol, of that token, only have one of these, only have one of these. And so I find that to pull him back a little bit. You really just have to, if you have it, burn it. If you have it, burn it. Because if you get another one, well, you can't take another one. So, yeah, that pulls him back a little bit for me. But I do like how, again, defensive he is. He manipulates things a little bit. There's other characters coming up on the list that I find do more fun manipulation. Manipulation of other players' abilities. Manipulation of the dice themselves. And for those reasons, I find them more fun to engage with than Miles Morales. But he's certainly very fun, and messing with your opponents will always be a blast in this game. So at number 6, Miles Morales. Loki here at number 5 is a wonderfully thematic character that really feels like the character that we know and love from Marvel. He is going to be all about trickery, all about illusion and misdirection. So he's got a couple of great abilities here that are feel very unique and are very unique. So Spellbound over here, for example, is going to allow you to cancel other players' abilities. You will put out the tokens on their abilities and cancel them out, force the opponent to not be able to use that during their offensive roll phase. You've got the Bag of Tricks over here, which are going to force the opponent or yourself, to roll, and then on a 1, you lose 1 combat point. On anything higher, then Loki gets to choose whether something good happens or something bad happens, right? So I really like that one. Again, here's a trick. Let's see if you can disarm this charm or this spell I've put on you. Let's see if you can see your way out of this bag of tricks. Really neat stuff there. And then the illusion at the top is, again, the central core here, and that being Loki has the ability, whenever you would hit him, to present you with 3 cards, one of which, well, 2 really of which are illusions, and one of which is the real Loki. You'll pull one randomly. If you pull the real Loki, you go ahead and do your damage as you normally would have. The other 2 are going to cause you to miss entirely or hit him for half damage. And that's just absolutely fun. This idea of, okay, you did 10 damage to me, maybe. Let's shuffle these up and see if you in fact did do 10 or maybe 5 or maybe none at all, and you completely whiffed because I'm so tricky, I'm Loki. So I really like that idea, the canceling, the messing with the other players, the shutting them down. It's not enough to become infuriating. It's not enough for a player to feel like they can't do anything. It's just enough, in my opinion, for him to be a pain in the neck, and that's kind of where you want him to be. I can still do what I need to do. I certainly can still do damage and mess with him and shut him down, but he's going to make it very difficult. And that's fun to play as. That's fun to play against. For me, Loki is a great character, and my number 5 for the whole set. At number 4, I've got Scarlet Witch, who is absolutely a beast at manipulating dice. That's the main gimmick here. She's got 4 status effects that she's bringing to the table, and they're going to do all sorts of things. Lots of dice manipulation, even the possibility of stealing other players' positive status effects. So that's her main thing. She's going to be using her chaos magic to mess with the probabilities, the statistics of the game, changing things around so that you're not quite sure what you can trust or not trust. I really enjoy that way of playing. And again, all of these are going to mess with all of that. So we've got probability manipulation at the top, where you can change the value of a die up or down, right? 1. We've got over here forcing your opponent to use one of your dice. You can do that if you want to. And again, they hoped to roll something and use something. they now have to use one of your own dice. The Conjure over here, which is going to, like I said, allow you to steal positive effects, and then Crackle here at the bottom, where you get to add damage for each of those status effects you've got. You want to have a lot of these. You want to be able to, have a lot of sort of spinning plates in the air at the same time. Definitely a tricky character to play. She's got a difficulty rating back here of 4, which is starting to get a little messy and a little crazy, but really fun. And again, in a dice game, as this primarily is, the ability to mess with those dice is going to be fun. On top of that, a dice game with abilities, with special effects, the ability to steal your opponent's effects, well, that's going to be doubly fun. So Scarlet Witch is just a blast to play. Really neat. Again, a little complicated, but I think you're going to have a good time pulling some crazy things off. So that's my number 4. Speaking of being able to do crazy things, we've got at number 3 here, Doctor Strange, who has got one of the most unique sort of ideas in the game, and that is, of course, his spell cards over here. So the spell cards, you are going to be able to play those into this spot over here, the Book of Ashanti, and then you'll be able to activate that spell from that place. And you'll be cycling these out, putting them into play, triggering them. This one reminds me a little bit of a recent set that Dice Throne put out, the Santa Claus versus Krampus set. Well, I think Doctor Strange plays a little bit like Krampus. He had this auxiliary deck of cards, which you could draw from, put them in play, and trigger those things as little extra effects. And he works that way a little bit with those spell cards. So, again, he is going to have a lot of flexibility with those spells. He's going to be shutting down opponents' abilities to play cards during their rolls with the bands over here. He's got a lot of interesting stuff. Premonition over here is going to draw some cards during your income phase, where again, you can spend these tokens and draw more cards. You want to get those cards so you can get those spells so you can do more. This one over here, the Deja Vu, is going to let you restart your offensive roll. If you really whiff, you don't want what you got, you can spend that and try it again. So some personal dice manipulation. Whereas Scarlet Witch did some for you and some for the other player, he's really more about cards and a little bit of dice manipulation. Those spells are going to do some wacky stuff, which is very fun, but then the bands, which is probably one of my favorites, shutting down your opponent from being able to play cards when it's their turn to roll their offensive dice. So really neat. I enjoy him quite a bit. He is going to, thankfully, those spells are not all in play at once. You'll sort of put them out and then trigger them from here. So he's not too overwhelming. Difficulty on him is categorized at 5, but I find him to not be too nasty because you're not getting it all at once. If you have to consider all his spells at once, I could see that. I find him on par with Scarlet Witch because you are dealing with these things in order as opposed to having to deal with it all at the same time. Plus, some of these are fairly straightforward, and I also like that. So yeah, I really like Doctor Strange. For me, like I said, top 3, fantastic character. Yeah, a little more complex, but they managed to make him nice and streamlined enough where he is ready to play right out of the box. You don't have to sort of pre-read the cards and figure out too much, and I appreciate that. Number 3. So only 2 characters left. Now that you know that my number 2 is Black Panther, if you happen to know all the characters, well, you know which one my number 1 is, but we'll get to it in just one moment. Black Panther here is one of the easiest characters to play. As you can see, he's only got 2 status effects, a lot of blank space on his player aid over here, and he is pretty straightforward. He does a little bit of what Miles Morales' Spider-Man does. He is somewhat defensive of a character. He's got the vibranium suit here that's going to let him prevent some incoming damage by spending this. And then he's got the big twist, or the big thematic tie-in, let's call it, is the kinetic energy there. Every time you take some damage, and that's over here in the energy absorption passive ability, you're going to be getting some of this kinetic energy. That kinetic energy is going to allow you to hit harder. Just for having it. For every 2 you have, you increase the damage you do by 1. But then eventually, when you have enough of it, your suit will explode with that energy, and you will do a decent amount of damage to the opponent they cannot block. So again, that's all right here. So really neat. And again, a passive ability. You keep attacking me. You keep sealing your own fate. I really like that. As far as his attacks, his abilities, they're generally very straightforward. But I really enjoy the sort of angry Viking or dwarf kind of mentality that a lot of games or video games have. This idea of the more you hurt me, the angrier and stronger I get, the more I'm going to hurt you back until I finally just explode in rage, hit you back, and that thing resets. That's a great idea. It works out really well. I really enjoyed in this one. Like I said, very easy character at complexity 2 there, and a great starting character for players who are just getting into the game. My recommendation would be, if you're just figuring it out and learning, Black Panther here and Captain Marvel, which again, thankfully do come in the same pack, I think is the best jumping on point for Marvel Dice Throne. If you want to just, dip your toes into it, then you get that 2-pack, and that's going to be the best way to get started with it, to learn how this all goes. So there you go. That is my number 2 as far as playing and having a fun time with the game. Black Panther's one I'll always be happy to take. And then finally, of course, my number 1 most fun character to play in Marvel Dice Throne is going to be Black Widow here. Black Widow has some really neat stuff about her. She has a lot of upgrades, and that's the main thing she's going to focus on. If you don't know the game, upgrades are cards you can play over these pre-printed spaces here to make them better, to make them easier to hit the ability, or just to, have a beefier effect that happens when you do trigger that. She is all about those things, which is really neat. And so she's going to have cards that benefit from having more of them, above and beyond the fact that they themselves are better effects than the ones printed on her board. She's going to have ways to get these into play more easily over here with these different abilities. So she's got, for example, covert ops up here, where you get to look at and rearrange some cards that are coming up. You get to put ability cards into play, or look at what's happening, what's coming up, so you can draw those things. She's got the agility here, where she can roll a die to hopefully prevent some damage. And then the time bomb, probably my favorite thing of all of the status effects in the game. Time bomb is just fun. You give somebody a time bomb, you give it to them with 2 seconds before it goes off, which really doesn't seem like enough time. If you have enough of these upgrades I've been talking about in play, you give it to them with the 1 face-up, which is on the back side of this. And then the players are going to, at the beginning of their turn, roll a die. If they roll a 6, they have deactivated the bomb. Great, good job. If they don't, it counts down. And if it can't count down anymore, from 1 to 0, it explodes. Love it. Absolutely fun, very engaging. And you've got 3, I think, is my happy place when it comes to status effects. And I absolutely love leveling up these abilities. That's why I like her so much, right? Because I enjoy this feeling of not just having cards in my hand that I can play for an ability and then that thing goes away, but the just absolute joy you get from saying, okay, my grapple is now grapple 2, and it does even more stuff, more damage, more abilities, more what have you. You can do that all over this board, which is fantastic and joyous. So there you go. My number 1 favorite character to play, the one I have the most fun with in Marvel Dice Throne, is going to be Black Widow. So there you go, folks. That's going to do it for me. Thanks very much for checking out this video. I can't wait to hear what your thoughts are on which ones you like the best, which ones that you enjoy playing the most in this game, and why that is. What about that character makes it, a thrill for you to bring out and have a good time with. So that's going to do it. Thanks very much once again. My name is Z Garcia. I'm going to see you on the next one.